Alright, CNT120, Chap4Lab, last section, we're going to use a remote access connection. We'll enable remote access and then we'll use that connection. So in here, we're going to enable RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, which would allow us to remotely connect to a computer or server to either work on it, repair it, those kind of things, maybe even troubleshoot issues on. So what we'll do is if you're working by yourself, you'll want to enable this RDP on the computer next to you. If you're working with a lab partner at your table, both of you will enable this and you'll take turns connecting to each other's computer is what you'll do. Okay. So right now I'm working by myself. So on the computer next to me, I have done this process. Let me show you what I did. This again will be on the neighbor computer I have here. So I went to the control panel. So I have the control panel over here. Once I'm in the control panel, System and Security Settings, System and Security. Under System, Allow Remote Access. So I'll click on that, Allow Remote Access. Right now, by default, it should be said Don't Allow. So we're going to allow remote connections. That'll give us a warning. Hey, are you sure? You want to make sure? Say, yep, okay. And we will apply, and then we'll say okay. And then I will close this out. Now, this I did on my neighbor computer. If you're working with a partner next to you, you would do this so they can connect to you, and they would do this process so you can connect to them. And again, you'll just need to take turns doing that. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to use my remote access utility, remote desktop connection. So I'll click on here and do remote desktop connection. And this utility allows me to remotely connect to a device that is elsewhere in my network. In this case, it's the computer next to me. I'm sitting on computer 25. I'm going to connect to computer number 3. And the IP address of computer number 3 is this right here, 192.168.10.119. Again, I would need to look that up or ask my neighbor what their IP address is. Either go and look that up, ipconfig, and find out what it is, or ask my neighbor what that IP address is. So now that I know my neighbor computer is 119, I can say connect. It's going to say, what's the password? Well, we have an account there called CNT Student, and the password is CNT Class. Okay, CNT Class. And I want to say, okay. I'll need to accept this certificate. That is basically my certificate, my encryption certificate, if you will, security certificate. We'll say yes, and it'll connect. And this is literally the 10.119 computer connected via remote desktop protocol or connection, remote desktop protocol. I left a little notepad here that says welcome to PC3. Yeah, here's PC25 in the background. This is PC3 that I just connected to. So I could actually work on this computer as if I would be sitting there. I am glad to be here. Okay, and I could actually work on this, make changes to, etc. And over here I can even ping to I forget what the IP address on my computer is. What is the IP address of this guy? ipconfig. I think I'm 10.107. Yeah, I'm 10.107. So I could from here ping 192.168.10.107. And that is pinging my host computer. I'm pinging from computer 3 over here to my computer, computer 25. That's what we have the ability to do with this remote connection. This is handy to remotely connect to a device to either work on it, maybe add accounts, remove accounts on a server, that kind of thing. Or in this case, maybe even just help troubleshooting a computer, a client computer kind of deal. Like any other remote connection, there is security risks with it. This was actually the process of me going back up here. Here's a allow remote access. This is a process I did before. Like any other connection, any other remote connection, there is security concerns. So it is one of those that would need to be controlled or limited or put in a VLAN or something that this traffic is just not going across the network for people to easily see or capture, if you will. So it is, anytime I do a remote connection like this, I need to think about the security risks of. All right, once I have this connection working, and again, do a ping or something like that, do an IP config, kind of realize what it is, or realize that you can work on it. Before I leave here, I want to grab a screen capture of this to show that I am connected to it. So I'm going to open the snipping tool here. Snipping tool allows me to easily make a screen capture. I'll say new, and I'm just going to click and drag around this whole remote desktop connection. And I definitely want to see this top bar that shows that it's a remote connection. I will save this, and I'm going to save it to my folder. Let me go to my 120. Here's my Chap4Lab. And what are we calling this? We're calling this RDP session PNG. Leave the PNG there alone, okay? And I will do RDP session. That's your remote desktop protocol session, and we will save that. And that'll be a picture showing that we are connected to our neighbor computer. I will close that out. I'll make sure it's in my folder. I'll go to my chapter 4. Yeah, there's my RDP session. Looks good. And then up here, I will close this out, because right now my lab partner can't use their computer while we're doing this. We will close this out. And now they should have access to their computer and can be able to work on it. And what they're going to do is they're going to repeat this process but connect to your computer. Okay, if you're working with a lab partner, they'll connect to yours. Now, before I'm done with this part, we need to make sure we clean this up. So I'm going to go to my control panel now. Control panel, and I want to make sure I disable this. So system security, allow remote connection, and I want to turn that off. And please make sure you do that. That way we're not sitting here having these being able to have remote connections. And I will close that. And that is the end of part 10. What I will want to do now for part 11 is make sure I have all my pieces and get them submitted. So let me pull up my Windows file here, and this is where labeling is really helpful. I'm going to scroll to the top. I'm going to make sure I have Ethernet header. Yep. ARP table. Yep. UDP header. Yep. I'm looking at IP version 4 header. Here's my ICMP request and my reply. There's the ICMP request, ICMP reply. Then we have the ICMP version 6 header request, ICMP version 6 reply, request reply. Then we have the netstat and then the trace command. We do. So we have everything on this Windows file. I would make sure I save that. I need the 3-way handshake and my RDP connection. So here in my Chap4Lab, here's the 3-way handshake. We'll just double check that shows it does. There we go. I'll make sure I have that. And then I'm going to make sure I have this RDP session capture that I just did. Actually, I can open this in my browser, I believe. Open with Firefox. There we go. I can open up my browser, and there is my RDP, and there's me connecting to that 10.119. All right, so I have all the Windows files. I will need to make sure I submit this, the Windows text file, the RDP, and the 3-way handshake. I'll need to make sure I log in the D2L and submit those 3. On the Linux side, on my text file, I'm going to make sure I have ARP, netstat, trace, and TCP dump. So ARP, netstat, trace, and then TCP dump down here. Yes, we have it all. We have it all. I think I actually got that in there twice, maybe. I think I actually got them in there twice. But so be it. So be it. There we go. So I'll make sure I save that. Make sure I have saved that file saved. And then I will need to make sure that this file, let me close this out. In my little folder here, here's my documents folder 120. Here's my chapter 4 Linux. I'll need to make sure that gets submitted to D2L as well. So just like chapter 3, log in the D2L on your Windows side over here, log in the D2L on Windows on this side here, submit your 3 files, the Windows text file, the 3-way handshake, and the screenshot. And then on Linux over here, log into D2L from here. I'm going to open up my browser and log into D2L from this side and submit that chapter 4 text file, the one we were just looking at right there. Submit that chapter 4 text file here, and then I'll have all the data from the chapter 4 lab.